Hi everyone, Rene Bastarache here, and today I'd like to share with you some of my past life regression experiences. And then we'll talk a little bit about what you can do with past life regression as well. Now, one of my first past life regressions I had, this must have been, about 15 years ago. I remember I went back to being a child. Now, usually when we do past life regression, we'll take you into your childhood, then a few years later into your young adulthood, and then a few years ahead of that into your death scene so you can see what you've died from. So just to give you the format, sometimes you'll get something in every single situation, sometimes you'll just get bits and pieces. So this was one of my first ones. And I remember I was a young boy, and I don't remember the year, but everything seemed kind of old. So I don't know, I'm thinking maybe it was in the 20s or the 30s, somewhere around then. Anyways, we were on vacation somewhere, and it was just my mother and I. And I remember seeing my mother. She was like, we're at a lake type, beach type thing. And she was sitting on a chair on the beach, sitting back, enjoying herself, reading a book. And I was supposed to be playing, by the shore of the water. And I guess what happened was, make a long story, or I should say a short story long, is I went out in the water. And as we went ahead, when they said to go, go ahead later on in your life, there was nothing. And go later on in your life, there was nothing. But when they said to go to my death scene, that was my death scene. What happened is I went a little bit too far out, and I started to drown. And I guess I didn't make too much noise because I must have filled up with water, and I drowned. Unfortunately, I wasn't saved. I remember seeing my mother there while I was drowning, and she didn't notice me because she was enthralled in the book that she was reading. I really hope it was a good book. But anyways, so that was kind of a short experience, and it gives you an idea of some of the things you might experience or see while you're in past life regression. I mean, for me, it was very vivid. I was a young boy. Like I said, I was probably, I could say no more than 6, so I was very young. And I was supposed to be, just playing innocently. And my mom, I remember seeing her, she had a really old-fashioned type bathing suit like they used to have with floral print. So there's quite a bit of detail. Now, another time when I did past life regression, this one was a little bit different. Now, you'll experience past life regressions, or you can experience them by doing one-on-one sessions with a past life regressionist or a hypnotherapist, which is basically past life regressionist is a hypnotherapist that does past life regression. Or you can even do them on your own with self-hypnosis. Once you've done quite a few of these and you get a feel for it and you realize how they work and how to use your imagination to be able to see things more vivid, you may even just fall into a past life regression on your own doing something, because usually what happens is you might be doing something and you'll pop back to a past life where something similar to that happened. In fact, that happened to me once while I was at the gym walking on a treadmill. And I remember I was walking on this treadmill, and for those of you that have done that for a long time, it gets monotonous and you're just walking and strutting, and all of a sudden you just kind of go away. And I was taken back to being on a speed march as a soldier. Actually, I was a British soldier, and we were walking along this long, dusty road, and I believe it was somewhere in the desert, going to some battle. I don't know. I imagine it was probably World War II or something around there, one of those wars, because we've had a few. And we were going to a battle, and everyone was kind of humming and singing, and we were marching really fast, and it was kind of a fun situation. It was war isn't fun, but I mean it was it must have been a relief day, so it was kind of a happy day, and I felt like I was enjoying myself walking and singing with the guys, and but it was kind of interesting to see that, all the sand, and we had light suits. I think it was almost like some kind of a khaki type uniform on, and some funny looking hats, kind of like a modified cowboy hat that we were wearing. So that was an interesting one, but like I said, that wasn't a complete legitimate past life regression, but it was kind of an association from the walking, bringing me back to a time in the past where I was walking like that also. So let's go back to a legitimate, true past life regression and a complete session. This last one I'm going to talk about this is kind of interesting because I went back to a time, it was in the Orient somewhere. I don't know if it was, I imagine it must have been somewhere around Japan because there were samurai there. Or at least, people some soldiers, fierce soldiers that seemed to be samurai. And I happened to be a peasant, just some person, with his, I was carrying my belongings with a bunch of other people. It was a busy place. And all of a sudden, this horde of people on horses that I thought were samurai, come running through the village and swinging their swords. And that's how I died in this life, by catching a samurai sword from right over here going across, and I died. And the interesting thing afterwards is thinking about my feelings about swords. Again, for those of you that know me, I have quite an extensive background in military. I specialize in a lot of weapons, and although I don't own any weapons, I actually have always liked swords. I think they're neat the way they're made, and especially the samurai sword, the way they fold the metals. I've seen a lot of these documentaries. However, whenever I see a samurai sword or think of one, I always kind of get the willies because it's so sharp on both ends, and I always kind of got this, almost like my neck would go like this, never really realizing why. When I look at a fencing sword or a Viking sword or any other kind of sword, one of those Spanish dueling swords, none of those bother me. I think they're pretty, and same as the samurai, but I've always kind of got the willies, if that's the proper term. So it's kind of funny, the association with having been killed by one of them, by a samurai. Now, in past life regression, or I should say when you're traveling on the other side, in the spiritual world, there's no time. So you can experience a past life regression. However, you can also experience other things. When we take you to past lives, a lot of times one of the sessions I like to use is to take somebody to a fork in the road where there's a stop, and you could either take a left, go straight, or take a right. Take a right will take you to the past. Take a left will take you to the future. Or going straight will take you to the future in this life. So I should say the left would be a future life. Past life, present life in the future, or future life. So I guess you could say the one in the present life in the future, would be almost like a psychic reading. So yes, you can use a past life regression session or that format to take someone ahead 5, 10, 20 years to see how their life's going to be, or to see how a project they're working on is going to fold out. So it's kind of interesting when you think of that, because in the spiritual world, the past, present, and future are the same. There's no such thing as time. So you can do anything, go anywhere, anytime. Matter of fact, the reason why I'm bringing this up is Raluca and I were talking about this one day. I remember, probably about 2-3 years ago, we had gone fishing. Yes, she comes fishing with me sometimes. And we went to a place called Skeleton Dam. Now, Skeleton Dam is this big dam on the Saco River up here in Maine, but it's kind of, you have to walk quite a ways through this field to get there. They don't allow cars to get that close to the dam. So we were walking through the field, and we were talking about metaphysics and past life regression and about this whole concept of there being no time. And I remember looking at Raluca and saying, in my next life, I think I'd like to go back to be a Native American Indian before the American settlers came and settled and found the United States. So think of that. In my next life, I want to go into the past. Who knows? Is it possible? Well, when I go to that, I'll let you know. Okay, I'll try to let you know, but it'll be my past life. So maybe one of you guys can do a future life regression and ask me if it worked out. But it's kind of interesting, the different things you can do. You can do, like I said, past, present, future. You can even go on parallel journeys. But I'm not going to get into too much of that strange stuff. My courses explain a lot of that. What can you use past life regression for? Okay, it's a great entertainment thing if you want to take people into the past just to find out, what they can see, but there's actually things you can use it for. Have you ever had that feeling of deja vu, like you've been someplace before? You might be by a monument or the Grand Canyon and say, I've been here. You can use past life regression to go to a place that you've been before. You can just, in past life regression, say, I want to go back to when I've last been here, or if I've ever been here. Or you've met someone, you had that deja vu feeling with a person, so go back to where you may have known this person. Now, you may have known this person because you feel really strong and familiar with them, maybe in a different situation, because from life to life, a male can be a female, your brother could be your uncle, could be your wife, so they change from sexes to people to situations from life to life. So if you feel familiar with someone, you want to go back to find out where you knew someone, you feel like your spouse is your soulmate, and you want to see if it's been an eternal type thing, if you knew them before, if you were with them before. So there's quite a few things you can do with people like that to find out about them, or places or things. If you want to learn more about yourself, go back and find out some of the things you've done, some of the experiences you've had, to learn more about maybe why you are the way you are now. It's interesting. One session I did, actually this was at an adult education course we did. It was a group, Past Life Regression. And one of the clients, clients in the session was a doctor. And he came, afterwards when we do the group, we go around from person to person and ask each one of them what they experienced. And he was saying that in his past life, he was a painter. He wasn't the real famous painter, so I guess you call him a B painter, a relatively unknown person. So, and he had this feeling before, because when he saw himself as a painter, he saw actually the personage of what he looked like, because I told him to imagine themselves looking at themselves as if they're looking in a mirror. And so he saw what he looked like, and he saw some of the paintings he worked on. And it's interesting because probably about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, I saw this gentleman again. And he said that he had done some extensive research trying to look into old paintings, and he actually found one of the paintings that he had seen in his past life regression. And when he saw the picture of the artist, he recognized him as the person that he saw in his past life regression. So it's kind of interesting. He actually found himself from a past life. Some of the things you can do are, it's remarkable. I never ceases to amaze me the stories and the things that people tell you while they're in session. Let's see, one more thing that you can do that I didn't mention before is you can also scan many lives for similarities. Okay, instead of just going to one life, you can jump from one life to another life, or you can just go to that place before you go into a life and you say, I want to compare many lives that I've had, and I want to find similarities. So maybe in lots of them you were a mechanic. Maybe in lots of them you were in a security type situation, military or a guard or things like that. So you can scan them to find out different things you did, or different objects maybe you had, or people that you were with. The limit to what you can do in these past life regressions is basically up to your imagination. Now, if you're doing them for yourself, again, you have a lot more leeway. But if you're doing them with a practitioner, you need to let them know exactly what you're looking for and discuss it with them before you go there. So I hope you enjoyed my experiences and what you can do with past life regression. And if you'd like to learn more about past life regression, or maybe even learn how to do it as a regressionist, we do have a great past life regression course. And I'm going to have the link in the description below so you can go take a look at it. So thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.